Hey guys, Rob here with McDojoLife, and the guy you just got done watching in that video goes by the name of Daniel Anderson.
Mr. Anderson.
AKA Art to Miss on Instagram. And yes, that was me and him sparring in that video, but we'll get to that in a moment. I was first made aware of Daniel on Instagram, where I was relentlessly tagged in his videos over and over and over again. So I looked around his page a bit and a whole bunch of red flags started to pop up.
Red flag.
Now, normally, I could care less about someone just hitting a bag by themselves. That's not really my forte, that's not what I dig into, but I did start to notice that he was giving tips and advice to people even though he clearly didn't know what he was doing.
This is a leg sweep exercise. It helps build recovery skills for when you miss. And the loose dirt adds to the difficulty as well. Gotta find that rhythm and keep conditioning your knuckles even if you don't have perfect form. Speed drills are great for working out. Here's a small Wing Chun move. It's important to keep pressing forward while you do it.
So the next question for me was, is this guy trolling? Which a ton of other people also asked the same thing. But no matter how many people asked, his answer was almost identical every time. So he's giving out bad martial arts advice, and he says he's not trolling. Well, that's where I come in. One of the big things that he was constantly preaching on his page was that he was going to learn 100% online, and that's all you needed. The only problem with that is that every time someone online would give him some type of advice, he would pretty much just ignore them or try to say that he knew better in some way, shape, or form. So I had to find out for myself if this guy was really trolling or not. And I thought one of the better ways of finding that out would be hook him up with a fight promoter. So I hooked him up with my buddy Mitchell over at Combat Night to see if he might follow through and actually set himself up with a match. If he's serious, he'd reach out to Mitchell and be able to follow through with what he said by proving to people that you can learn 100% online if that's really his intent. Or he doesn't follow through and clearly trolling. Now I, like most everyone else online, thought there's no way this guy's actually going to reach out to set up a match. And we were wrong. He actually reached out to Mitchell, the fight promoter, a legitimate fight promoter, and did request to be put on a card. Mind blown. I didn't see that coming. So now that left me with two questions. Is he actually going to show up? And if he does, will he get hurt when he shows up? So I had to find out for myself how serious this kid really was. I wanted to meet up with him. So I reached out, and turns out he's only a few hours away from where I live. He accepted meeting up. So me and my homie Corey, otherwise known as the Duval Slap, drove down. We met up with the kid. It started off with a very simple, basic interview, asking questions about all the things people have been asking online.
I started doing security and social media, and my videos of me just doing my practice on my punching bag at home started to go viral, so I was like, there's tons of information on the internet, there's tons of places to study, many experts that have uploaded all of their information online. So I've kind of just been researching, following that, and doing my practice at home to help condition my body and get better at martial arts.
I noticed, like, through your comment sections, you would tell people, I'm not going to go train at a martial arts facility, verbatim actually, saying I will not do that, I want to be 100% trained. Do you think that's a good way to go?
If you get the opportunity to train at a gym, take it, you know, it's good for you, but if you can't, then that doesn't necessarily mean you should give up on, you know, wanting to train.
A couple of the comments that you did make were specifically that you don't need a gym, you can get just as good through online training.
Well, there's actually a story behind why I was so stuck on that philosophy.
Okay.
What happened was a couple months back, I uploaded all of my information on the UFC Talent Scout website where they scout for martial artists. And I got a call from a talent scout about being on a martial arts TV show. And they're like, okay, you're gonna have to pay $500 a week for all of these martial arts classes for 2 months before the TV show runs to get ready for the TV show to be on it. And I was like, I don't have the money for that. At that point, I had already become under 10% body fat. I had perfect male model measurements. And I was fairly confident that, okay, I can train myself. I can't afford this, but I can put in the work to get there. And they just wrote me off as a lost cause. And I was like, well, that sucks. So I wanted to show people, like, you know, you can train yourself. And then there was also the curiosity of, like, what kind of style would I develop if outside of any gym I just kept practicing every single day? Would it be unique? Would it be at least unpredictable, you know?
I think the thing that stood out to me the most was just how many comments there were about people saying, go train at a gym, you should go train at a gym. And your 100% answer almost every time, which is very verbatim, was, no, I'm going to do this on my own. When people who were actually legitimate martial artists gave you advice, you didn't listen to them. You specifically said, no, I got this. So if you were going to train online, don't you think that it'd be beneficial to actually listen to some of the advice?
Well, there's a bit of a double-edged blade to that, to taking advice from your comment section. Because I do have people in my messages, like I talk to people that work at martial arts gyms on my phone. They've been giving me advice and coaching. But then you get really deep into some of the bigger videos in the comment sections, and there's people giving contradictory advice. And sure, this guy, you know, maybe he did train at a gym for 10 years, maybe he's lying, you know? So it's kind of dangerous because you don't know if it's genuinely good advice. So you also got to kind of make sure where you're pulling your information from is a trusted source.
I did notice that in a lot of your videos, you definitely are giving advice. You're not just working on it saying me, me, me. You're saying this is how you do this. And so that in itself is teaching people. And by the way, just to add to that, you yourself did say that you do know that you're looking to inspire people. So when you're saying you're looking to inspire people, you have to remember the things that you did say, which was, no, I do not want to train at a gym. I'm going to do this on my own. I believe that you can do this on your own. I don't believe you need a gym to be doing good. And there are people who are giving that credence because they're saying, you know what, I can 100% do this on my own too.
I'm trying to document my own process and explain my own thoughts and my own system. And even while it may be wrong, it's more of a documentation process rather than an outward information process. You know, like if there's a scientist doing an experiment, he might be wrong about his experiment, but he still explains every step of his experiment, even if it is a failure, you know?
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. As a matter of fact, I do think that that's kind of cool that you're putting yourself out there. I know that that's a scary thing because you are putting yourself out to the world, and that's a very vulnerable thing that I don't think a lot of people understand until they have that many eyeballs. But on the other hand, you are giving advice. And so when you do give advice, you have to understand the weight of that is you're saying, do this because of this, as if you know, when you yourself have not had a traditional coach in most sense of the word. So that means technically you don't know. You're just giving advice to people who are taking that as your word, and they might believe you even if that's wrong. It'd be different if you said, I'm doing this specifically for me. While I'm doing this, this is how I feel. But you're not saying it that way in a lot of your videos. You're saying, I'm doing this because it will develop this. And so that is teaching people.
When I give people advice like, okay, you know, I'm gonna be real, in the comment sections, I'm a little like here and there, you know, I kind of just mess around a bit. I'm having some fun because people are having fun at my expense, so sometimes I mess around with them. But in the DMs, when people genuinely come to me advice, you know, I've talked to multiple other self-trained people, I encourage them to do their own research, not just to take my word at face value.
I got you, but don't you think that most people are probably going to be in your comment sections and not in your DMs?
Very true. It's a very hard thing to manage, actually.
I guess the only other thing I want to cover is because once that goes away. All right. So what are you doing? Move on. Do plain shit over there. A lot of people ask, and a lot of people state, you have to be trolling, right? So we're talking about it right now. Are you trolling people?
Okay. No and yes. In a way, I want haters. You know, sometimes I mess with people because I want people to be in the comment sections, be active, be like kind of going at each other just a little bit. Like, I'm not trying to ruin somebody's day or anything, but I want to get kind of a discussion going in the comment sections because it helps me out a bit and it spreads out my content a bit more.
Do you feel you're just doing it to get views?
No.
Do you feel it does a disservice to the people who really are listening to you when they can't tell whether or not you're lying or not? Because, I mean, you have to be honest. You have to really think about this. There are people who clearly in your comment sections are listening to you. And when they see that you're saying, do this way because it will equal this, and you're coming from a place of someone who doesn't have that knowledge, you just are regurgitating what you've seen online within a couple months, don't you feel that's a disservice to them?
You know, sometimes my words may seem disingenuous in a way, but I am showing my actual process. In every single video, those are things I genuinely practice and that I am documenting to show. other people what I am doing to get to where I am.
I think my only issues were when you start mixing satire and reality, what winds up happening is if your goal, like you've talked about before, is to inspire people, then I think it's a disservice personally to them by mixing that, because they themselves might be confused by the message that you're giving. I also think that when it comes down to it, I don't have a problem with you documenting anything that you do. I think it's fucking awesome. I love that you put yourself out there. I think it's great. But at the same time, there's definitely times where you're teaching people when you're not documenting. You're literally saying the words, this is how you do this because of this. If someone is uneducated in something and they try to say that they're educated in something, someone's going to listen to that, and then the responsibility lies on you when they get hurt, because they're going to listen to you, and when they listen to you, that puts them in a position that could compromise them, that could get them hurt.
Very true. My message might not be perfect. Nobody's perfect. Nobody spews out the best, most positive message. There's always rebuttals and ways that it can negatively impact people as well as positively. There's always a gray area to life. But I think I'm at least doing better for my community than a lot of, other people, At least my intentions are good.
I think it's pretty universal to say that if somebody doesn't know something and they start teaching something that they don't know, that's an easy remedy. Just don't teach things you don't know. I don't think that your message would be any less genuine and any less positive if you decided to start teaching things based off of what you actually do know, instead of based off of things that you just heard like within the month of training that you've had. So you're not trolling people online.
No, I'm genuinely practicing.
Practicing. You still believe that you can 100% train online to develop yourself to get to a pro level.
Yes.
You think that even though you don't have a formal education in the martial arts, it's okay that you're still teaching people online those things because you feel there's a greater good.
Yes.
After that, I was curious some of the stuff that he was doing, so I had him teach us some of the things that he was doing online. The next thing we did was we sparred a little bit. Now this was extremely light sparring. Our intent was not to go down and hurt him, as so many people requested online. Our intent was simply to find out if he was serious about what he was saying and where he stood in terms of being able to take an amateur fight that he clearly has signed up for. And without exaggeration, these are literally the only hits that were made during our sparring session. Now, if you want to see the entire sparring sessions, not just of myself, but also with him and Corey, I'm going to be posting that on our Sensei level members area and above. So if you're a Sensei level member and above, you are already available to see that. All you have to do is go over there, click on it, and it's ready to go. You can watch the entire sparring sessions. They are 4 total sparring sessions, 1 boxing, 1 kickboxing, 1 with myself, 1 with Corey, and they were 3-minute rounds. After the sparring session was over, me and Corey both helped him out, gave him a whole bunch of advice, gave him advice on how to grow his social media, gave him advice on how to cut weight correctly, gave him advice on how to correct some of the techniques that he was doing. We gave a ton of advice to this kid, and I gotta tell you, there's so many things I want to say positive about this kid. This whole interaction was so positive that after we were done, he actually reached out and let me know how appreciative he was of the entire experience. One of the conversations that came up was he does sprinkle in some satire in his content, but he didn't tell people what the difference was. So I asked him if he would do me a favor and actually let people know that, hey, you're not a professional, maybe people shouldn't be learning from you, since he was kind of teaching people online. And the other thing was let people know that, hey, you shouldn't be learning from a guy who's just now learning. And I gotta give this kid credit. He actually did.
Hey, I just want to make it clear that I don't think anybody should try replicating what I'm doing or learning from me. There's plenty of really talented people to learn from. And I'm just an amateur. Like, I wouldn't take lessons from me, you know. You guys could injure yourselves. If you really want to learn martial arts, I'd definitely try to find somebody that really knows what they're doing and that you trust as a very reputable source, you know.
Not only did he post that video up, but he also posted up another video explaining our sparring and explaining how it was actually a win for him and how much he learned.
I'ma be real with y'all, your boy took an L, but it was really a W. I had a chance to spar with McDojoLife and a semi-professional fighter he had with him. With it being one of my first sparring sessions, I could barely even touch them. But the opportunity to spar with experienced martial artists taught me a lot of things that I can use to improve my learning process.
Now normally, you guys know me, this would be the part where I rate people on the Dillman scale, but I can't do that this time. I'm giving this kid an approving Miyagi. First of all, the kid actually met up with us, which was very hard and I'm sure nerve-wracking to do, especially knowing what I do for a living. I am so impressed with the fact that he just followed through with that step alone. Next, when he was offered an opportunity to take an amateur fight, he actually accepted it. And on top of that, he followed through with actually reaching out to the promoter when I gave him the information. I let him know about all the issues that I had with the videos that he was posting, and he went on to let people know, hey dude, you shouldn't be following my advice, specifically because I don't know what I'm doing, and I think that that's very impressive of him. Also, one of the big reasons I went out there was he was talking about wanting to learn 100% online and anybody could do that. The kid actually is at a gym now. So I think that that's super impressive that he went back on what he said about learning 100% online and admitted, hey, you probably should go to a gym. Lastly, the kid seems to have good intent. He said he wanted to influence people in a positive way. And now he's really pushing a lot more of his music stuff on his page. I'm giving this kid nothing but credit. I mean, I think that maybe he was a bit misguided at first, but at the end of the day, this kid really is showing a lot of growth. One thing that I noticed was the kid needed some gear. So, I got a surprise for him. I'm hooking him up with my homies over at RDX Sports. RDX Sports is a big sponsor of mine. They've been homies for a very long time and they always help me out. I'm going to send him whatever gear he wants from RDX Sports. Thank you, RDX. You guys are awesome and solid for coming through and helping this kid out. Also, I know a ton of gyms close to his area. All he has to do is let me know what gym he wants to go to, and I'll make sure that they take care of him. On top of that, if he needs any help with his social media growth, all he has to do is reach out, and I will do my best to try to make sure that I help the kid out. All in all, it was a positive experience. One thing people always ask of me is, why don't you just show up and fight them? Because that would be really fucking dumb. That doesn't do anything but entertain people. That doesn't actually help anybody. So when I met up with this kid, I had no intentions whatsoever of harming him, only wanting to provide him with some help. And because the experience was so positive, now that kid is going down a path of being able to learn legitimate martial arts at a gym because someone gave a damn. There were countless comments on his page about people wanting to fight him and beat him up. What good would that have done other than help your own ego? Yes, we sparred, but that's what it was. Light, friendly sparring in order to judge and gauge how he would do in his amateur bout that he had signed up for. And clearly there's a lot of work that the kid needs to do, but now because we had such a good interaction, I'm rooting for the kid. I want him to do well, and I'm going to help him out as best I can. With that said, it brings us to the question of the day. Do you like this type of video? Do you think I should go to more gyms like this and have more interactions this way? I know that not every interaction would probably go as smooth and as well as this particular one did, but I really think that if you reach out to people like this in a positive way, that you can make a positive impact, or at least maybe show a different side of things without having to hurt and beat people up. So whenever you leave your comment in the comment sections below, be sure to answer that question, so that way I know you watched the full video. As always, thank you all for the likes, comments, shares, subscriptions, and all that other crap people online tell you to do. Oh, by the way, and memberships. And here's where your membership pays off, because guess what? You guys get to watch those entire sparring sessions where no one else gets to. So sensei level members and above, go check them out. Keep the martial arts legit.
My baby got robbed the other day by degenerates. So she wanted to learn some new form of this self-defense. So she did her research and perused it online and found this dude said he could move shit with his mind. He call himself Seafood Paul Zimmerman. He got a dojo with a strip mall near Cinnabon. Now she spends all day trying to break boards with her thoughts, but the only thing she's breaking is my little heart.